Wonderful day. We, Group 1, will provide the SPSS results and interpretation, also the answers of our group to the questions provided.
Our research context, sports psychologists compared veteran boxers with veteran swimmers to determine whether exposure to head impact have an effect on memory in old age. The researchers measured the number of their correct answers to a short-term memory test. The following tables present data obtained in the study. For the veteran swimmers, 10, 8, 12, 9, 11, 7, 6, and 10. And for the veteran boxers, 7, 4, 6, 3, 2, 6, 5, and 3.
We have provided two variables, which are the scores from the memory test and as well as the veteran swimmers and boxers, which are labeled as athletes. To answer the first question on what would be our statistical treatment, it would be an independent t-test for veteran swimmers and boxers. The reason why it is independent is since swimmers and boxers are completely different participants, in which they may be both veterans, although the type of sports that they play varies from one another. And since we are comparing quantitative data that has two relationships between samples, t-test is the appropriate statistical treatment.
You might be wondering how we set a value label in SPSS. And to demonstrate on this, first click on the variable view and you would click on the label athlete, go to values and click on the three dots beside, and a brand new window would appear in which it allows you to change the value labels of your data. And as you can see here, Group 1 corresponds to veteran swimmers and Group 2 corresponds to veteran boxers.
After which, we can see that the score accurately corresponds to the given variable. Hence, we are now ready to run the independent sample t-test. Select Analyze, then Compare Means. Then the toggle of independent sample t-test would appear. Then, memory test scores would go into our test variable box. Then athletes would go on to our grouping variable, since this is the variable that sets them apart into two groups.
It is clear that we have used the value of 1 and 2 to separate the two groups. We then would click on Define Groups and enter 1 for Group 1 and 2 for Group 2. Then click Continue and then OK.
Then, we are now going to interpret whether or not the test is statistically significant. Based on the video provided, we will be interpreting the results based on our 11th test, and the decision rules are as follows. If P is less than or equal to 0.05, the variances are significantly different. Then we would want to interpret the bottom row of results for T.
Whereas, if P is greater than 0.05, the variances are not significantly different. Then, we want to interpret the top row. Looking at the two conditions here, we have a P of 0.789. Therefore, the variances are not significantly different. So, we're going to interpret the top row results for T. Looking at these values on the top row of T, then looking at the decision rule of T, the test significant using alpha 0.05. If P is less than or equal to 0.05, the test significant, the memory test scores differ significantly for the veteran swimmers and boxers. If P is greater than 0.05, the test is not significant. The memory test scores do not differ significantly for the veteran swimmers and boxers.
And as you can see from these two conditions, 0.000256 is in fact equal to or less than 0.05. Therefore, the test is significant, meaning that the memory test differs significantly for the veteran swimmer and boxers. Then, as we state this result in APA format, we can conclude that there is significant difference between the memory test scores of the veteran boxers and swimmers who had an exposure to head impact. E indicating that we have an independent sample t-test, 14 as the degrees of freedom, which is equals to the sample size of 16 minus 2, and a t of equals to 4.852. And finally, our p-value of p is equals to 0.000256, which is shown here. The one in the parentheses show a much more short answer, although it would be better to show the result in APA format since it is more factual.
Does exposure to head impacts have an effect on memory? Why or why not? If the results show a significant difference between the two groups with a p-value lower than the chosen significance level, alpha equals 0.5, we can conclude that there is evidence to suggest that exposure to head impacts has an effect on memory.
Quand il me prend dans ses bras, il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose. Il me dit des mots d'amour, des mots de tous les jours, et ça me fait quelque chose.